Well, hi, how are you?
Doing pretty good, Devin.
I just wanted to thank you again for making the time out to do this interview. I guess I just want to start with you sharing your first name and um, your church here with Brett.
James Wynn is my name. I'm a member of the Church of Christ on Genesee Avenue in the Linden area.
Hmm.
hmm
And I just also too wanted to ask, why do you personally want to see the Columbus Police Department change, or what changes would you like to see?
Well, first of all, it's two that my answer is twofold. What I would like to see, I would like to see some cultural change within the department itself,
Hmm.
regarding a greater representation of African American police officers. I would like to see that. I would like to see more opportunities within the police department itself. Uh, and we have talked to several officers and recognizing that there's a level of racism that exists currently within the Columbus Police Department itself amongst officers. So I would like to see some cultural change going on there where officers have uh, equal opportunity to advance, and they don't they're not subject to being discriminated against and subject to racism within the department. That's number one. Number two, I like to see a cultural change there, but I want to see that also transferred to the community, because recognizing that the us against them mentality that currently exists is a very toxic environment. So the change I want to see is officers being a part of the community, serving and protecting the community. Here's what I've seen over the years. I've seen that in certain neighborhoods, suburban neighborhoods specifically, officers serve and protect the community. But in the Columbus community, I see officers policing the community, and it's definitely two different things that are happening. Uh, and so, if an officer is part of the community and they're serving the community, it's the relationship takes on a different dynamic. They don't. It's not a us against them mentality. You're trying to serve and work with the community, and so that's the change I want to see. I want to see officers um, contributing to the community, and all community trusting officers. Ideally, that's what you want to see. We have unfortunately some community members reluctant to call the Columbus City Police. Uh, they don't want to become a victim. But you're supposed to be able to call the police if you need them, not to become a victim, but to be served and protected. So those are some of the changes I would like to see.
I really like that point of the difference between serving and policing. There's definitely a difference in how an officer shows up in these different communities, of how they're going to, um, like their involvement in the community is going to be a lot different.
Yeah, the problem with Columbus City Police is a lot of them do not live in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Don't raise their children in the community. They don't go to basketball games, football games in the community. They come from outside the community into the Columbus, and that creates a problem within itself.
I agree. They don't really know what this looks like. Again, it's that cultural problem.
And also, unfortunately, some police officers have a level of fear when they come to serve to work in Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have that attitude of fear of the people you're supposed to be serving and protecting, that creates a big, huge problem.
Yeah.
So, but they don't. If you don't, people tend to fear what they don't know. But if you live within a community, you come to know the community, uh, that fear goes away.
Mm. My next question is, in your own personal experience, have you been a victim, or do you know someone who's been a victim of harassment or brutality or just racial profiling, racial prejudice by a police officer?
Unfortunately, I don't know any black males that have not been subject to police, all those things you just named: harassment, profiling, unfair treatment through the course of their life. It's just something that you have dealt with. I haven't had it specifically with Columbus City Police. Over the years, I've learned how to navigate or how to interact with police because I
Mm-hmm.
have been subject to profiling. One example is when I was younger, I had, my father had rented a car for me, had a rental car, was out of town. Uh, the police was towing the rental car away because they said it was parked illegally, which it probably was at the time. Uh, but then they said, this is a stolen car. And I tried to explain to the officer, this is a rental car, it's not stolen. He said, it's a stolen car, get handcuffed, get taken down to the police station, treated like a criminal. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I tried to explain to him that the paperwork was in the glove box. It explains everything. He didn't want to hear anything I had to say. So ended up down there. Uh, they finally figured it out. It was a rental car. It had been stolen previously, but the rental car company did not report it back that they had recovered the vehicle. So the big misunderstanding, the potential for escalation was great because I was very upset the way they were treating me when I hadn't done anything. And that's the problem. When you're assumed guilty and treated like a guilty person and you know of your innocence, escalation is likely to take place because the officers tend to be very confrontational.
Yeah.
You know, I can't tell you the times I've been pulled over for traffic stops, and the question they'll ask me is, "Are you getting smart with me?" And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like the parent-child relationship they're projecting
Mm-hmm.
to me. Am I getting smart? I mean that's they're trying to start something. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and so I often caught myself taking a deep breath. It's just stepping back, so the situation would not escalate. Because I just kind of wanted to, but I was thought better and exercise some wisdom in not doing that. But yeah, I can. So I relate to people who um, have been unjustly identified, profiled, all that, and escalation does occur because oftentimes it's provoked. I've seen it over the years, trying to provoke me personally. And so that
Mm-hmm.
whole attitude, unfortunately, still exists within the police community, and that's the travesty.
Yeah. My next question with that as well is, why do you think it's important that Brad pushes for police reform? We were talking earlier about Brad has the people power. And so I wondered why to you this is important that Brad pushes this.
Well, here's how I see it. I watched over the summer after the murder of George Floyd,
Mm-hmm.
down the Taylor murder. I watched the protests. People were upset in not only in those communities but also here in Columbus,
Yeah.
and people were irate and they're protesting. Uh, People got woke up, so to speak. But now, 7, 8, 9 months later, people going back to sleep. They're not as upset. They're not, protesting like they were. It's important that Bread work on it because Bread, we're consistent. We're not going away. We're going to stay on it until we're going to see an issue through to the end. So that's why it's important that Bread works on it because we're going to continue to fight for change. And we have the power to do it. People were protesting, but they weren't really organized. Bread is organized. We have organized people power, and that's where the power is. It's not in the individual protesting upset. Who listens to an individual? But when you have people power, people will listen to you because as we have 41 congregations and represents thousands of members, and we all agree upon justice needs to be done and injustice needs to be overcome. So it's critical that Bread works on it because if not Bread, who else is going to do it? That's the kind of attitude I have. Who else is working on these issues, whether it be police reform, affordable housing, whatever it is, we're going to be there working.
I think that's a great attitude to have, the if not us, then who kind of mindset, because I think oftentimes people have that someone else will do it mindset. And I think that can be very um, contradictive to them being productive or them getting the goal done, them seeing something all the way through. It's because they keep thinking that someone else is going to do it. Someone else will change these policies. Someone else will advocate for me. When it's like, if you think of it as no one else will do this except for me, I think that's when the real change will happen.
Yes, and I think that's why some people who have power, so the politicians and whomever, uh, may not like bread because bread doesn't go away.
Mm.
I mean, other people go away or they retire, what have you, and we've been around over 20 years. We just keep having people step up to work
Mhm.
or change. So,
Yeah, I really wanted to thank you for one, your advocacy on this, to being vocal, being honest about what you see in the community, what you think really needs to be changed. And again, with just working with bread, I think for someone like myself, someone being like young and coming in as an intern, it's really admirable to see people who look like me do this kind of social justice work continuously, and being very adamant about it. So I just want to thank you for your time, and thank you for having this much passion about these things.
well, thank you. I'm just gonna keep it real and keep it honest because that's who I am. I can't be no other way. So that's where I'm at. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Of course.